Hey everyone, let's just dive right into today's explainer and unpack a truly critical challenge facing Indonesian students right now, the math crisis. Let's be honest, for a lot of kids, numbers are just, well, they're intimidating. But today, we're looking at this fascinating, massive shift in how education is delivered. We're going to examine exactly why traditional teaching methods are falling flat and how an innovative, completely offline digital library is stepping up as the ultimate solution to make learning math actually fun.
Look, the reality of where we currently stand is pretty stark. Recent studies, including the PISA 2022 assessment, show that our students' numeracy scores have actually fallen compared to 2018, and they're still sitting far below the global average. You guys, this isn't just some slight dip. It represents an urgent national challenge. We literally have an entire generation of students who are struggling to grasp fundamental math concepts.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to quickly hit on the numeracy crisis, the trap of just drilling questions, Kipin's super fun learning method, how it solves real-life problems, the magic of free offline access, and finally, how this empowers Indonesia's education system. All right, jumping right into Section 1, the numeracy crisis, and exactly why we're falling behind in math. Research from the Center for Strategic and International Studies brought up something wild. There is a massive gap here. A child's ability to interpret and understand math, their numeracy, is significantly lower than their general reading literacy. So the crucial takeaway is that while our kids are successfully learning to read words, they are being completely left behind when it comes to reading numbers, data, and logic.
Which brings us right to Section 2, the drilling trap. Because as you'll see, practice definitely isn't always perfect.
You know that feeling when you're just endlessly drilled with practice questions? Well, Minahaj Nabedin from the ministry points this out perfectly. He says that the traditional method of just constantly drilling students doesn't work. It's actually a trap. Instead of making kids smarter, it literally ruins their mood. It makes them feel burdened and actually makes them lazier and way less willing to engage with the material.
You see, drilling is basically just forcing rote memorization. It leaves zero room for the critical thinking and logical reasoning skills that kids actually need to solve real problems. When they're stuck with these traditional teaching methods, they completely lose motivation. They struggle so much with contextual word problems because they've only ever been taught to memorize a formula, rather than how to actually think through a scenario logically.
Okay, let's pivot to some good news. Section 3, Kipin's fun learning method, which is ushering in a whole new era of math.
We absolutely have to ditch the old memorizing formulas on a blackboard routine. What we really need is true numeracy literacy. And what that means is equipping students with the ability to interpret numbers, analyze data, and most importantly, solve daily problems using logical consideration. It's about making math actually make sense in the real world.
Enter Kipin. They've cracked the code with this brilliantly fun learning method. We are talking about a library of over 100 interactive digital picture books entirely dedicated to numeracy. And they're perfectly aligned with the National Curriculum Merdeka for grades 1 through 6. Plus, thanks to this really cool on-screen annotation feature, students can draw, write, and solve problems right on their devices, which trains their motor skills too. It turns passive reading into this highly active, exciting experience that kids are genuinely enthusiastic about.
Let's move on to Section 4 and see how this actually looks in practice. Solving real-life problems.
Because these books don't just ask for a blank number as an answer. They drop kids right into contextual, real-world scenarios. Just take a look at these covers. Tenda Bencana puts kids in a situation where they have to figure out measurements to build a refugee tent. And Bantuan Berlipat? It teaches greatest common divisors by having students manage actual aid logistics for a village. They are learning math by solving meaningful human problems.
And check this one out, Hari Blanca Anya Penuh Warna. It brilliantly takes a notoriously complex topic, like multiplying and dividing decimals, and teaches it through a super relatable, colorful shopping trip to the market. By grounding abstract math in everyday activities, Kipin forces students to rely on logical reasoning rather than just blindly following a memorized formula.
But listen, as we all know, the best content in the world means absolutely nothing if students in remote areas can't access it, right? So, Section 5. Free offline access. No internet? Literally no problem. This is where Kipin's technology becomes an absolute game changer. They didn't just create the content, they solved the distribution hurdle. Through their hardware solutions like Kipin Max, Kipin Classroom, and Kipin Purpose Desa, hundreds of these books can be downloaded for free, entirely offline.
That means zero internet connection is required for kids in the most remote corners of the archipelago to access world-class education. And the process is incredibly simple. Students just open the Kipin School 4.0 app, top the Buku menu, head over to the Curriculum Merdeka folder, pick their grade from 1 to 6, and boom, download straight to the library. Once it's there, equitable learning is a reality, not just a promise.
All right, let's zoom out a bit for our final section. Section 6, Empowering Indonesia's Education and Partnering for the Future. Here is the massive takeaway. Kipin isn't just an app. It is a powerful technology partner for the Indonesian government. They are providing the exact tools needed to support national initiatives like the Gerakan Numerasi Nasional. They've totally proven that they can replace tired, ineffective rote memorization with content that is perfectly suited, highly effective, and incredibly fun for education in Indonesia today.
So, let's wrap this up. We know the facts. We know that drilling is the bad guy here, right? It holds our students back and makes them dread math. And we know that interactive, offline content that teaches logical reasoning is the hero we need. So the only provocative question left to ask is this: how fast can we get Kipin's offline digital library into the hands of every single student across the country so we can finally realize that dream of a golden generation for Indonesia Emas 2045? The challenge is huge, but the solution is right here, ready to be downloaded. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how we learn.